Now, U.S. President Trump announced the attack on Iran over the weekend, moving oil prices. Here to talk about the U.S. Israel and Iran geopolitical tensions that, of course, are driving those oil prices higher is Jon Allen, former ambassador for Canada to Israel and a senior fellow of the Bill Graham Center for Contemporary International History at the University of Toronto. And John, thanks as always for joining us.
My pleasure.
What led to this latest? I mean, we saw them launch an attack 6 months ago. It felt like things had calmed down. What built this one up?
I think a combination of factors. One was the weakness of Iran and the weakness of its proxies in the region. Obviously, Hamas had been weakened. Hezbollah had been seriously weakened. The Houthis had backed off once the ceasefire in Gaza took place. And Iran's ballistic missile defenses had been seriously harmed. I guess the other thing is that I think Bibi Netanyahu was able to convince Donald Trump that this might be an opportune time either to negotiate the end of Iran's nuclear capabilities, or if that doesn't work, to try and force a regime change or a change in policy regarding nuclear ballistic missile technology and support for proxies.
Now, we saw the leader taken out and several key figures in the government. What does the new Iran look like right now? The government that is on the ground there, is it one that would be open to some kind of a deal, a peace deal?
The new looks very much like the old. They have the same president who is reported to be more liberal. They have now a former Supreme Court justice who is considered to be very hard line. And they have another cleric taking the place of Khomeini. So far, Iran has said they're not interested in opening up negotiations again. They were in the middle of talks when Israel and the U.S. began the bombings. President Trump has indicated that he would be open to having renewed discussions. But I think at this point, Iran is a bit wary of trusting either Trump or Netanyahu.
And now Trump called for the people of Iran to rise up. Is that realistic? And what might happen if that actually did happen?
I don't think it's realistic. He suggested that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard lay down their arms, they would be given immunity, and they should hand over their weapons. Now, who should they hand over their weapons to? Very recently, in January, approximately 30,000, according to some reports, of Iranian citizens who were protesting were brutally massacred by this same Iranian Revolutionary Guard that Trump is suggesting should lay down their arms. And I don't think they're ready to do that right now. And it's not at all clear, unless there are boots on the ground, who they're going to hand their weapons over to. I think while the Iranian people in Iran and in the diaspora are welcoming the attacks, at the same time, they're very worried about where this could go. As we know, Roger, regime change in the region, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Yemen, and Libya has not gone particularly well before.
And I just want to get your thoughts on, we're almost out of time, but Mark Carney's release on this, his statement. Thoughts on that, and where does Canada fit in with all this?
Well, I must say I was a little surprised with how full-throated the Prime Minister's support for these attacks were. In my opinion, and I think in the opinion of some others, this was not a case in which there was either the right of self-defense. There did not seem to be an imminent threat against either the U.S. or against Israel, and there was no UN Security Council authorization. So it's certainly arguable that these attacks were contrary to the UN Charter and customary law, which talks about the non-viability of states, and there are very limited reasons for conducting these attacks. So Carney, nonetheless, and despite what he had to say in Davos about opposing might is right, came out very clearly, much less nuanced than his European partners, and said that he supported this fully. Obviously, he supports the security and of Israel and its right to exist, and he talked about obviously the various horrible things that this regime has done and has threatened in the past. There's no question about that. But whether or not you want to give Donald Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu the right to decide who to attack when, I think is another issue.
Okay. Jon, we have to wrap it up there, but always appreciate your insight on this. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Jon Allen is a senior fellow of the Bill Graham Center for Contemporary International History at the University of Toronto.